Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Now, before we dive into the movie that we're going to talk about today, I want to address the recently shaved face that I am rocking. I am participating in No Shave November and trying to raise some money for the Prostate Cancer Foundation. If you want to help me out without even having to spend any of your own money, you can find out all the information right there about what I'm doing for No Shave November and how I'm trying to raise some money for the Prostate Cancer Foundation. So if you want to help me out, please go check that out. But now it is time to dive into another movie. And I tell you, this was one I was really excited about. When it showed up at TIFF, it was a movie that I wanted to win. I wanted to root for because Taika Waititi had written and directed it. And I'm a huge Taika Waititi fan, but when you heard the material was going to involve Nazis and satire, you're like, ooh, I hope you do this correctly. And I had a lot of faith in Taika. And when I went to Toronto for the International Film Festival there, received really nice praise and even got the audience award. And that got me super excited. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into JoJo Rabbit. Now, like I said, this is a satire, although as Taika has said himself, this is an anti-hate satire. But it does focus in on Nazi Germany. And it's a really, really tight rope to walk. Because if you go too far in any direction, you're going to fall down. And look, just saying Nazis and satire in the same sentence, you're already going to lose some people. But I really hope folks will give this a chance because I think Waititi walks that tightrope quite well. I won't lie, the beginning, it took me a minute to get comfortable laughing at what I was watching because it starts right out the gate at one of these kind of Nazi training camps that our main character, JoJo, is being sent to. This was something that was going on in Germany all the time. And one of the things that the movie focuses on is, yes, it reminds us that Nazis are evil and they did evil, evil things. But not all Nazis were like gung-ho to like do like Holocaust stuff. It was like you have to join or die. Or if you were kids, it was like if you don't send your kid, you're gonna be in trouble. And you go into this camp with all these kids that are just being fed all of this Nazi rhetoric and their fundamentals, and they're kind of indoctrinating them into the Nazis. And it's it's terrifying to think of that happening to kids, and then jokes start hitting, and you kind of hesitate the first one or two before you start to realize what Waititi's trying to do as far as what he's making you laugh at. And how it's always directed at Nazis, even if it's coming from a Nazi. He never makes light of the Holocaust ever, and reminds us, like I said several times throughout the movie, just how terrible Nazis were. And I think the scene that nails it the best features Stephen Merchant, where he comes in, and there's a lightheartedness to the way in which he's approaching searching JoJo's house. And it kind of reminisces of what Christoph Waltz did in Inglourious Bastards, where, Nazis could come off inviting and welcoming and friendly. But then in the blink of an eye, that switch flips and you remember just how terrified you need to be of them. And how that scares JoJo is super important to his story. And it's scenes like that I think make this movie a winner. And Waititi does a really nice job, I think, of balancing it. And yes, he plays Hitler, but when you remember that Hitler is the subconscious of JoJo, the things that are happening, the things that you're saying, I think play well and just add to the story of JoJo's character and to the heart of the film, which focuses on JoJo finding a young Jewish girl hidden in the wall of his sister's room that his mom has been keeping safe, and how he has to deal with, I don't agree with this because of what has been drilled into his brain, but also, like, I love my mother and I can't get her in trouble. And because of that conflict, he starts to talk to the girl whose name is Elsa, played by Thomasin McKenzie, who's phenomenal. We'll talk about the actors in a minute. But as he starts to talk to her, you start to see the humanity and obviously all the things that he's missing. And a lot of it is kind of masked with certain conversations. Like the way Thomasin kind of gets into JoJo is buying into the things he's trying to do, which start out as Nazi hatred. And if he's going to keep her here and not say anything, he's going to use her to benefit himself. But as those conversations grow and he starts to realize, that Elsa is a person and she's a good person and that his mom is a good person, and then things that happen directly to JoJo, he kind of starts to come full circle. Now, toward the end of the movie, he's like almost there, but still kind of holding on, not necessarily to the Nazi stuff, but holding on to not wanting to lose some of the control that he has. And he doesn't quite fully feel like he comes all the way around. But it's because he's a 10-year-old and he's scared about something, so he doesn't quite approach it the right way. And I think by the end of the movie, which, I love the way it ended. By that moment at the movie, you're like, I think, JoJo kind of understands what's going on. And Waititi plays to the benefit of using the end of the war as the setting for the story, so that you can address all these things you want to address, but also kind of be able to come to a full resolution with the story and what happens to Elsa and JoJo. And when all of that works, I think you really do get a really nice anti-hate satire that is fun-loving, man. It's got a massive heart, and I think Waititi's telling an important story, about kids and taking it from that point of view of a young boy in Nazi Germany and what it was like to be a boy at that time, but also how he kind of finds resolution by the end of the movie. And I really thought it worked. And what helps Waititi so much in all of this is his actors. And Roman Griffin Davis, who plays JoJo, wow, man, he was stupendous. Like, you just fall in love with this kid, and like you're watching what he's doing, and you're like, wow, man, like really, really impressive acting from Roman Griffin Davis, and he's so freaking adorable. And while it's frustrating that it takes so long for JoJo to kind of come to the resolutions that he's having, and some of his resolutions, there's kind of like fakeness to things that he says because of that, like I said, that fear that he's dealing with throughout the whole movie. But when you remember he's like a 10-year-old kid who's just been drilled with all this Nazi rhetoric, it is tough to kind of separate yourself from that. And I think he does such a good job of wrestling with it and handling it. He was the lead that the movie needed. JoJo had to be the strength and the foundation, and he really is. He is that pull. And then you add in Scarlett Johnansson, who plays Rosie, his mother, and she's phenomenal, man. She is one of the two main things that push the heart of this movie. In order to get that rhetoric out of JoJo's head and have him find resolution, he needs characters to help push him there. And Scarlett Johnansson, who's his mom, who's hiding this Jewish girl in their in the wall in his sister's room, where she's coming from, why she's doing it, and how she has some of those conversations with JoJo without directly addressing it. I just loved how she played it. She's so good. And then the other person that really fuels all of the heart to the movie is Thomasin McKenzie. She's brilliant. Arguably the best thing in the whole movie. What she does with Elsa and how they address her, like when she first comes out of the wall, which we kind of saw briefly in one of the trailers. She kind of puts her hands on the wall, and it's almost like a horror movie, and it kind of plays into those Nazi stereotypes. And this is the stuff that Taika kind of pokes fun at, like how absurd was it that people could think this way, and they play with that a lot. And how she responds to how JoJo is going about things, and how she is trying to get underneath all the crap to just find the 10-year-old boy that should not have to worry about all of this nonsense, is beautiful to watch. And the rest of the cast is really phenomenal as well. They round out those three and kind of elevate everything they're doing. Taika Waititi being one of them. His role as Adolf is one of those things that might not work for people, but like I said, when you remember it's JoJo's subconscious, it makes the conversations that JoJo is having very, very poignant and important. And even Taika helps remind you how scary and evil Nazis are and drills some of that into the movie, as well as the absurdity of like, I'm gonna go eat a unicorn, because of just the general ego that was going on. So like, I thought the stuff that he did really worked, and again, it added to building into JoJo's character and that struggle that he's having. Throw in Sam Rockwell, who plays Captain Klenzendorf, and his partner Finkel, played by Alphie Allen, and they kind of end up being these like closeted homosexual Nazis, and they're phenomenal in the movie, man. Like the way they play and how it plays kind of builds into that story of like, I don't think all Nazis wanted to be there, and even by the end, I think there were Nazis who understood when they finally started to realize what was going on, the atrocities that they had committed. Yet at the same time, knew that they had committed them. And that there's a moment with Rockwell's character that addresses that. And I thought Rockwell and Alphie Allen played those roles in that part of the movie so well. It really kind of highlights that stuff. As does JoJo's best friend Yorkie, who's played by Archie Yates, who's just like the second most adorable child on the planet in this movie after Roman Griffin Davis. This kid, man, every time he's on screen, you smile. And much like Rockwell and Alan, you know, he kind of does the same thing. He's this kid that's just kind of been thrown into all this stuff, you know, and it's like he's along for the ride. So at the beginning, he's like, oh, gung-ho to be a Nazi at Nazi camp. Like, we're going to learn to go to war. And then, you know, kind of gets thrown into war. Is like, look at this, man. Like, we're kids and we're already doing stuff. And then by the end of the movie, he's kind of like the last person to kind of push JoJo and like, hey, I think you need to not be worried that she's a Jew, man. Like, things are really bad out here. Like, Russia's coming, and America's coming, and England's coming, and I think you should probably reevaluate some stuff. And I just thought his character, what was extremely important to JoJo, but also to the story as a whole, as far as like another viewpoint to look at. And like I said, he's just so stinking adorable. And then you also have Rebel Wilson, who is one of the camp leaders, Fraulein Ram. You know, she's very, very small bit part, but funny. And then Stephen Merchant, like I said, I think he has the most pivotal scene, the most emotionally connected scene, and it's probably the most powerful scene of the whole film. And I just thought he absolutely crushed it. So when you have a cast like that, and you have a story that really does have a heart at its center that's pushing something positive, I think Waititi somehow makes it all work in a way where it's like not gonna work for everyone, and you might feel a little awkward at the beginning, but if you let this movie kind of tell you its story and pull you in, I think you do find something that has a lot to say that brings about a lot of positivity. So I really, really enjoyed JoJo Rabbit. The question is, did you? Like I said, this is not a movie that's going to work for everyone. But I do think, you know, Taika is coming from a good place. And the material, I think, lends itself to a really good story that we might not typically see. So let me know if this was something that you just can't even go near, if this is something you gave a chance but it didn't work, or if you went into it and gave it a go and was like, wow, this was actually surprising. It might be one of the best movies of the year, which is how I felt when I walked out. Let me know that, and if you did enjoy it, what were the parts that were working? What did you think of Stephen Merchant's? Like, what was the most powerful moment of the movie? There's several, and don't spoil them. And if you're gonna spoil directly, like, you know, just kind of throw that in there. But let me know what powerful moments hit you. I teared up multiple times in this one. And if it didn't work for you, like, what was the thing that wasn't working? What scene or thing was like, that was too much? This is where you lost me. Let me know everything you're thinking down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this movie review, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man more often, anytime we're talking movies or trailers or reactions, go hit that subscribe button. Help me out this month for the Prostate Cancer Foundation by doing so if you hit that subscribe button, and then hit the little bell that follows so you get alerts every time I make a new video. For C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I'm the C-Man. Now I'm signing off. Peace. Well, oh B, you guys are still here? You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry, C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy, and if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.